How did a staff meeting end by everybody's student debt getting wiped out who was in attendance? Stay tuned and find out. Hey, thanks for coming back. This is Scott, your host of Briefly Good, and this is your weekly reset, trying to get you refreshed, thinking in a positive mindset for the week ahead of you. All right, we're going to get right into our main feel-good story for the week. We've talked on the show before about paying it forward and how that all works. You know, buying the coffee for the person behind you in line at Dunkin' Donuts, that kind of stuff. Usually paying it forward's a couple dollars. This time, the decimal points have swung way over. Huge difference. So this is all happening at the Bryn Mawr Hospital in Pennsylvania. And they had an anonymous donor who was previously a patient at the hospital, walked in the front doors and handed over a check for $1 million US. Hospitals frequently get donations, big donations from companies or anonymous donors. They usually go towards like building a new wing of the hospital or some fancy new MRI machine, something along those lines. But the donor of this $1 million had something different in mind, and he was very specific about how the money was to be spent. No additional wing with his name on it, no plaque on a wall, no name plastered on the building. The very personal request that they had was to wipe out the student debt for all the nurses. So if any of you have spent any time in a hospital, and I hope you haven't, you realize that the nurses do so much work, and they're the ones really having the contact day to day with the patients. Doctors and their teams are in for a matter of minutes doing testing or looking at notes or numbers. The nurses are the ones that get to know the patients the most, no doubt in my mind. This donor realized the same thing that I did. But let's face it, nursing school is very expensive, and many of the people you see helping out in hospitals, they're all starting their careers somewhere between $40,000 and $100,000 in debt. Instead of thinking about how to save people's lives, they're thinking about how they're going to pay for their student debt. So our donor in this story, while being in his hospital bed, realized the best way that he could say thank you to the nurses maybe wasn't a gift, a card, balloons, a box of chocolates. It was freedom, financial freedom, the burden of being held down by high student loans. So just imagine you're a nurse, you've worked a 12-hour shift, you're exhausted, you just want to go home, but now you've got a staff meeting to go to. The head supervisor stands up in front of the group of nurses you work with and says, your student loans, they're gone, all wiped out, every single one of them. We're talking about dozens of nurses who woke up worried about financial stresses and now are going to bed education debt-free. One nurse mentioned that this didn't just change her bank account. It changed her whole life. Now she will be able to save for a house years before she thought that would be possible. But more importantly, it meant to her that she could take a deep breath and that her work was being seen and appreciated. Unfortunately, a lot of healthcare workers probably feel underappreciated, underpaid, and overworked. And I don't blame them. But this $1 million donor's I see you went a long way. Pretty cool story, I thought. Wanted to share it with you guys. And I thought the real special thing about this was it's still anonymous. They don't want the fame. They don't need the press. They just wanted to say a big thank you to the people that helped them most when they were at a time of need. So if there's a nurse in your life, somebody you know personally, or someone you run into while getting care, just give them an extra thank you. And if you've got a spare $1 million hanging around, you can also do what this donor did. What is something meaningful that's been given to you by someone? It doesn't have to be an object. It could be an experience or some wisdom or maybe even a lesson. Let me know. Email me brieflygood@hotmail.com because I want to interact with you guys and hear your good stories, maybe some strategies and tips that you guys use to get you feeling better. That's my aim here on Briefly Good, is to turn your negative thoughts around and make you feel better about the week in front of you. I want to start sharing the stories that you send me on my episodes, so please reach out and tell me the good things happening, whether even it's just a positive quote or a quick story about something you saw out in your life. So like mentioned before, I like to provide some tips and strategies that can help you maybe reduce some of your stress or anxiety or change your negative thoughts into more positive ones. This week is kind of my own personal thing that I've experienced throughout my life that's helpful to me and other people. It's good for mental reset. It involves water. Get in water. Take a shower. Take a bath. Hot tub, pool, whatever you have accessible. For some reason, water seems to calm people down. I know me personally, I like to have a shower pretty hot. I'll close my eyes and lean my head back and just let the water hit the top of my head and run down my back. And I can stand there for minutes, and it's just a great stress reliever for me. I also know when my younger son will get upset about something, the best thing for him to do would be to get in the shower. And then a few minutes later, You could see the change in him, his whole body almost like relaxed and calmed down. So try that one. If you're having a stressful day, a stressful moment, just feeling overwhelmed, get in some water. Let me know if that works for you. And also let me know if you have any other tips kind of similar to that you find helpful. I'll share them with everyone. So reaching back to some of previous episodes, we've talked about different things that maybe, can change your social media intake or what you're looking at there, the information you're feeding yourself. Also some screen time things you can do to change. We've touched on a few different strategies and things like that. What about products? Is there any products you guys are using to relieve stress? I'd love to know about them. I'd love to check them out. So just send them my way. So we're going to wrap the show up in just a moment here. We like to end every episode with the Briefly Good positive quote of the week. This week's quote is from Victor Hugo. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. I hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining me, Scott, here on Briefly Good, and go out and do something good today, even if it's brief.